Hi, welcome. Thank you for being here and for continuing on our journey together, a journey of shared experience, of discovery, and hopefully of some insight. I know that it is human nature to believe that whatever era in which we live is somehow different or special, or provides a turning point in history. And yet there is too much evidence to deny the conclusion that we are, in fact, living during a momentous time, a time of great change, accelerated by the pandemic, but of great change nonetheless, a time of consequence, and a time of upheaval. Given the forces seemingly swirling around us, it is helpful, I think, to join in a break to breathe, a restorative few moments when we relinquish the burden of anxieties and concerns in order to live fully in the present, as a way of strengthening our capacity to do so more often. So let us take our initial break as we find comfortable positions, perhaps close our eyes or soften our gaze as a way of removing ourselves further from our current concerns for just a few moments, and allow our bodies to also take a break from the abuse to which we regularly subject them, this abuse of tension, of clenching, of holding, of tightening, of pulling in, of pushing out, all the things that we regularly do to our bodies. So let us just take a moment to center ourselves. Feel the ground under our feet. To rest our hands in our laps. To try to let go from the tops of our heads to the tips of our toes. And let us breathe. Breathe in consciously, fully, attentively. And begin with that fullness. I don't know that meditation has to proceed with such full breaths, but I think to take the first one in that way makes a havdalah, a difference, or a machitza, a separation between our normal shallow breathing or unattended breathing or ignored breathing and that conscious, filling, aware, complete way of allowing our bodies to feel the restorative presence of our breath. And we might hold it for a few seconds or not. It's really up to each one of us to find that rhythm or that experience of breathing that is helpful. The main point is to pay attention to it, because it's happening right here, right now. And there's nothing else we can do or have to do. We can't solve the issue that will arrive 20 minutes from now. We can rethink something that happened earlier in the day, but we can't go back. We can't redo it. So let us just breathe in this moment. It's a way of exercising our live in the present muscles. There's no right way or wrong way of breathing. There's just attentive breathing, or breathing attentively with focus and concentration. And a loving awareness of our bodies, of their workings, of the miracle of just being alive. I hope your Thanksgiving observance was satisfying or meaningful in some way. Whether you traveled or stayed at home, whether you were with friends and family, or enjoyed a less social observance, whether it was exuberant or more reflective. With some trepidation, because of all the predictions of the great numbers of people who were projected to be traveling this year, I traveled to be with my son in Brooklyn, New York, and I was lucky going in both directions. Actually, I think the whole country was fairly lucky because the weather was so wonderfully mild. As I am sure you have noticed, as soon as Thanksgiving Day is over, even before the day is over, besides the onslaught of Black Friday advertisements and Cyber Monday notices, and in the last 10 years, Giving Tuesday alerts, there seems to be a small obsession with leftovers. Even when I used to prepare the meal for Thanksgiving, I don't remember ever needing a recipe for leftovers, as I used to enjoy eating the leftovers for days after the holidays. But the leftovers that allow us to think further about gratitude are always relevant and appropriate. So I thought I would share some leftovers with you. Leftovers that I found helpful or provocative or uniquely insightful. The first one is from a colleague of mine, Rabbi Marcia Plum, who shared the following with her congregation. It is entitled, A New Thanksgiving Menu. She also shared it with her colleagues. A New Thanksgiving Menu. I love my Thanksgiving recipe collection and cooking from it. My favorite is my mom's sweet potato pie, and I always eat too much of it. But this year, I need a new set of recipes. Why? It has been a tough few years. For some, this will be the first Thanksgiving gathering in 2 years. Anti-Semitism, far-right rhetoric, and violence has filled our news. General negativity and grumpiness have invaded our relationships. We need a different language. We need words and deeds of patience, compassion, kindness, and respect. So this Thanksgiving, I am creating a new menu, a menu for the soul, not just the body. It will be full of generous helpings of Musar Midot, character traits or soul traits. I plan to feed my soul and the souls of those at my table with love, in Hebrew, ahava. The Hebrew word for turkey is hodu, which is similar to hoda'ah, which means thankfulness. So my hodu, my turkey, will be made of hoda'ah, thankfulness. My turkey will be served with a side dish of appreciation, hakarat hatov, and it will be stuffed with patience, savlanut. My mom's sweet potato pie will be topped with compassion, chesed, and marshmallows too. The apple pie will be chock full of kavod, of respect. This year, I plan to overstuff myself on thankfulness and on seeing the good in others and myself. This Thanksgiving, may you eat and be satisfied, and may you get up from the table overflowing with love. Rabbi Plum also asked us to consider additional recipes, which I invite you to imagine and even suggest. My own offerings include cranberry sauce mixed with fully engaged listening to others, shmiyah, listening. I would prepare my sweet potatoes with non-judgmental acceptance, Kabbalah, of myself and others. A platter of roasted root vegetables would not be complete without a sauce of seeing, Re'iyah, every person at our table, and those who could not be present physically, but still deserve to be seen as the fully human individuals they are. I would include with my pumpkin nut bread some daily moments of quiet, of sheket, in which to think, reflect, and reflect upon and appreciate the blessings that we daily enjoy and upon which we depend. These moments of quiet are also a blessing, away from the noise of so much that distracts us and keeps us from fulfilling our best, truest selves. If I planned my menu enough in advance, I would bake turkey-shaped sugar cookies filled and covered with smiles, tzchokim, with the conviction that, just as we need time to breathe, we need to find opportunities to smile and to laugh, as exemplified by the person in Leftovers #2. In an article entitled How to Give Thanks in a Messed Up World, Margaret Renkel offers a perspective personified by her father. Nashville. My father always had a ready answer to the question that greases the gears of human discourse. Whenever anyone he didn't know particularly well, a neighbor or a sales clerk or someone at church, would ask, "How are you, Mr. Renkel?" My father didn't say, "Just fine, thank you." His answer was always, "Fantastic." Later, when he was dying, it was the answer he gave even to family members checking in. Right up to his death, he was always fantastic. Even before he got sick, this answer was an inexplicable exaggeration. Money was always short in our house, and Mom struggled intermittently with depression. But you would not have known any of that from the way my father greeted others, always with an unexpectedly cheery answer to the throwaway question people asked out of nothing but common courtesy. I think about my father every day, but I've been thinking about him more than usual lately. Not only because Thanksgiving is coming on, that time when the ache of my missing elders is especially acute, but because I am trying to remind myself how to see the world as my father saw it. Brew positivity, the tag on my tea bag tells me, but I am thinking of nothing as simplistic as that. My father was no Panglossian, determined to believe that this is the best of all possible worlds. Dad grew up during the Great Depression in what was effectively an orphanage. He knew very well that this was not the best of all possible worlds. Nevertheless, he loved his life and was grateful for every minute of it. Somehow, He was able to hold the love and the beauty and the joy alongside the grief and the fear and the pain. Until mid-November, the daily temperatures in Nashville danced around in the 60s and 70s, even hitting 80 from time to time. There were still a few zinnias left in my pollinator garden, and every warm November day, the butterflies found them. A beautiful question mark, several Gulf fritillaries and cloudless sulfurs, a couple of monarchs, painted lady after painted lady. Not a leaf left on the maple trees, but the garden was full of painted ladies. I kept going outside to look at them. All day long, I could not stop smiling. I wasn't supposed to be happy about this scenario. It should not be 80 degrees in November, even here in the temperate Mid-South. Migrating butterflies like monarchs and painted ladies evolved to travel along a corridor of fall-blooming wildflowers. But wildflowers are mostly gone by November. If not for my zinnias, the butterflies would have starved. We are on a highway to climate hell with our foot on the accelerator, said the United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, at COP27, the Global Climate Conference in early November. It was not an overstatement. And yet I felt so happy about those butterflies, so happy there were still zinnias blooming in my flower beds. It felt wrong to be so happy when happiness arises from a source of great pain. But there I was, feeling both the joy and the pain anyway. My father would have understood. Margaret Rankel then ventures into the political arena somewhat and cites several recent episodes of negative consequence. But she continues as follows. But it's Thanksgiving, and I'm determined not to think about that this week. I will think instead about my father and his insistence on happiness. I will let my whole heart fill up with gratitude for what is still breathtakingly beautiful about this weary, ragged world, for the many people who are fighting for our democracy and for all the people I love. I can't force polluting nations to work together to hold climate change to planet surviving levels. I can't force Congress to work together for solutions to the economic inequities and information silos that separate us. But I can pull out my mother's recipe box and make a Thanksgiving feast. I can remember the loved ones who once shared this table and fill their seats with people whose loved ones are distant or otherwise missing. And I can be grateful for every single fantastic moment we have together. Let us breathe for a few more minutes and concentrate on this one fantastic moment by breathing in and then breathing out. We might think about her father's insistence on happiness. Insistence on happiness. I don't know how realistic that is. But we speak often about our freedom to choose. and we can choose. An insistent happiness in this inhaled breath. And the fantastic moment we inhabit every single time we breathe in and we breathe out. It occurs to me that the butterflies in November are no more miraculous than the breath we inhale every single moment of our lives. And the breath we exhale to complete that action. I hope you will continue just to luxuriate in this moment by breathing in and out. But before concluding, I would share with you this final thought from Margaret Rankel's article. A hard frost finally came to my garden last week, and the zinnias are gone now, along with all the butterflies. I am sorry to see them go, and I am trying not to interrogate my own gratitude for the days they had here. I tell myself it is not wrong to exult in the beauties that remain. I remind myself of the testimony of my father's whole life, of the truth he taught me, that loss and love will always belong to each other, that sorrow has always been joy's quiet twin. I wish you a week in which joy is more abundant than sorrow. And yet, if sorrow comes into your life, you will be able to see it in the perspective that she offers, that loss and love will always belong to each other, that sorrow has always been joy's quiet twin. God bless you. I am grateful for you. See you next time.